Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Live in Italy Magazine's YouTube channel. I am very pleased today to welcome Niall and Paari, and we're going to get into their background and where they came from. But what's most important is their lives now in Tuscany. And I know from our magazine that that is a dream that you want to make true, possibly. So they've left behind their highly successful careers as attorneys in Dubai and now find themselves running a winery and agriturismo in the Montepulciano area. So we're going to talk to them about their journey today. My name is Lisa Morales, and I am the editor of Live in Italy Magazine, a travel and lifestyle publication dedicated to all things Italy. Hello, Niall and Paari. It's good to see you both.
It's good to see you too. Thank you for having us.
So we're very excited to get to know you. So let's step back first. We know where you are now, but talk about your journey getting here, starting from like the beginnings, where you were originally from.
You want to go first?
Okay, so my story is probably quicker. So I'm born and raised in Ireland. Mm-hmm. And then I left Ireland to work overseas. I left for a year in 1989 and haven't really gone back. And I worked in London, I worked in Spain, and then 27 years ago, I moved to the Emirates, to the United Arab Emirates. And I was there for 25 years. I went there for 3 years. So obviously my sense of timing is not great. But from there, that's the backstory to coming to Italy. But we'll get into more of it, I'm sure.
Of course, Paari.
And so I'm originally from India. My family moved around in India a fair bit until I was about 12 years old. After which we moved to Dubai, and I finished high school there. I then went to the UK for further study. Went to the US. Went back to Dubai eventually, and started my legal career there. And that's where Niall and I met. Excuse me. So been between us, we've been to quite a few places. But yeah, the origin of this story started in Dubai.
That's right. And if you go to their website, which is called Poggio Golo, did I say that correctly? Poggio Golo?
Poggio Golo.
Poggio Golo. What's really interesting, and the first place that I always go to on a website is the about, and I love that. You talk about the fairy tale, and then you say boy meets girl, and then boy and girl meets Tuscany. So let's talk about the boy meets girl part.
Yeah, so I didn't have to go anywhere. She came to me. I was working in an international law firm in Dubai, and then Paari joined it. So I literally, I think I walked into her office a couple of weeks after she had joined and said, "Hello, I'm Niall. Who are you?" And she took a couple of years to forgive me for that. But we were friends for many, many years.
Yeah, we were friends for about 10 years. Wow. And then eventually we got together. So we've known each other for a very, very long time. And we've been married for about 7 years now. And we moved to Italy 3 years ago. So bang in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
2020.
So when we got married, we didn't have a honeymoon, because we were looking to get back to work. So we decided to take a sabbatical. So we took a 9-week sabbatical where we turned our telephones off, which was obviously a bit of a shock to the system.
Sure.
And we spent the majority of the 9 weeks we spent in Italy. And we traveled around, and we stayed in agriturismo. We spent a lot of it in Tuscany. And I mean, you describe it very well, what we found.
That was really the start of the dream. What struck us, and maybe we're going a little beyond your initial question here, Lisa, but what struck us when we came here was just the approach to life here was very different to anything that we'd ever seen before. People here are know how to live life. According to us, that's, their approach, the way they view the time they spend doing the things they love, the time they spend doing things with their family, all of that really appealed when we first came here. So the dream really started about 3 years before we eventually made the move. And the dream really was, well, why not? Why not, move to Italy and start an agriturismo and winery? And, when you say it out loud, as we did that time, you just think, oh my God, is that even possible? And I'm sure a lot of your viewers may resonate with them if they're thinking along the same lines, that, you've made this declaration that this is what you eventually want to do. And then you start thinking about, is that even possible? And can I actually achieve that? But what we did, lawyers being lawyers, we set about and made a plan. And we said, right, so if our eventual plan is in X number of years, we want to make this move, what do we need to do today? And it sounds really cliched, but things like SMART goals, where you're sort of taking it day by day and month by month and year by year to eventually get to where you want to go. And that's the kind of thing we did. I mean, it sounds really boring in that sense. The dream sounds fantastic, but the actual sort of steps to get to achieve the dream is the same old stuff that we all do to achieve our goals at the end of the day. It's, make a plan and execute it. So
yeah, and I'd like to maybe go through that plan a little better, because obviously with our readers and the people who watch, there's a lot of interest in Brian. I don't want to get too into it, and I don't want to be in the position that I know some of the people, they end up being asked a lot of questions. I'm not asking you to be the legal source per se. But if we could just pause on that for a minute, because I want to go back, your timeline. And one thing is interesting, and especially for these videos, we do have Italians who watch, and they're very curious. So we have a reverse thing, and you talked about quality of life, what you're getting in Italy that you didn't have in your life. And we speak to Italians who need to leave Italy because their goal is to pursue a career. So it's very interesting. What was it, and what can make, so we can explain to people, what is it? You had a highly successful career. You were partners in a law firm. You're living in a huge city. I mean, what was that moment that made you think, we don't need this? And I think that's hard for a lot of people, because, a lot of people's first goal is financial stability.
It was probably a sunset. As you said, we were living in Dubai, and Dubai has a hectic pace of life, and you work and you work and you work, and we were corporate lawyers, M&A lawyers, so deal junkies, and I think, and we'd been to Italy many times on holiday. You come in for a week or 2 weeks, but on this occasion it was literally telephones off, and we slowed down.
Yeah.
And instead of passing through Italy, we stopped and we stayed and we chatted to people in my appalling Italian at the time. We look back at how bad my Italian was, and it's quite funny. So thank you, all those Italians, for being very patient. And we stayed in one particular agriturismo, and it was probably a sunset. We were sitting there having a glass of wine. Where else? And as the sun was going down, we were just looking around the place thinking, God, this is absolutely stunning. And started talking about how it was so different to the lives we were living.
But in terms of the lifestyle, we were looking for something different. We both spent more than 25 years in Dubai. We still have loads of friends there. There are aspects of Dubai which are just absolutely fantastic. But what we were looking for at that time was a slower pace of life, just time to really smell the roses. And it just so happened that where we were in each of our careers, we felt that we could step away and do that. So,
I do get the other side of it. So if you are an Italian, and a lot of Italians have asked us, you came from Dubai to Montepulciano. We came from a teeming metropolis of 10 million people to down of 15,000. You know, why? Well, I mean, one of the things I say is, what was it, 4 years ago? No, 5 years ago now. I did 50 flights in a year. Yeah, and you know, you go to some amazing locations around the world, but you're sitting in an office, and from the office you're going to the hotel, and from the hotel you're going to the airport. And I would be there for meetings thinking, God, I wish Paari was here. It doesn't feel like I've been in this country for 3 days or seen anything, and back to Dubai. So, but I do get it. Maybe it's the far away feels or greener thing.
Yeah.
And Dubai is a land of opportunity. So, you know, for an Italian to go from here to there, good luck to them. You know, hope they have a blast. For us, we came the other way.
By the way, it's 4 million. Not 10 million.
Yeah, 10 million in the Emirates.
You're both still so young too. So let's talk about, I think, you know, the magazine came out of the pandemic, and the beauty of it is I have personally connected with so many people who have launched or grown their passion projects during the pandemic. And it's just one thing you could probably both agree, you know, is that some of these things that we say, when we retire, we will. Yeah. And is that what happened to you?
And from our perspective, we thought, did we ever want to retire? We wanted to do something different and experience a different type of life.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we never wanted to be in a position where we said, what if? And, you know, as much as you read about people who've had long, fruitful lives, I don't think anyone has ever said, I wish I'd spent more time in the office. It's always, I wish I had done that amazing thing that I wanted to do for, you know, all of my life, and I never got around to because of other obligations and commitments. So we didn't want to have that feeling of, okay, we've got this dream, and we don't want to say when we're X years old, 80 years old, 85 years old, oh, I wish we had actually bought that house in Italy. I wish we had gone and done that. So yeah, so that was really it.
But being lawyers, we were prudent. You know, we sat down, made lists. One of the first questions we asked ourselves was, can we afford this? Do we want to do this? What's our plan B, C, and D? Plan B was moved to Italy. Plan C was moved to Italy. And so was plan D. So we came up and moved to Italy. But we did. We spent 3 years. We came to Italy 4 times a year and looked at properties, looked at different regions. We made sure we came here at different times of the year because, you know, the sunset in Tuscany in August is just amazing. But what's it like in February?
That's
so we very consciously did that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So no, we did as much as we could to prepare ourselves for sure.
Yeah. And we looked at property.
So I know that that's a common question when people are looking for property, talking about how to find it. And you are not the first couple we've interviewed that said the importance of actually being there, because I know there's a lot of people out there just trying to sell this idea online. Do you feel that that's what made the difference, being there?
Absolutely. And also just looking back at our journey, you know, the very first estate agent, property finder who took us to a property and how green we were and how unable we were to actually describe what it is we were looking for. So we learned a lot in the process, you know, specify what it is, you know, you're looking for, create your dream parameters, realizing you're never going to find them. But hey, if you get 3 out of 5, that'll be pretty good. And there'll be something else you never thought of, and you suddenly realize that's important. You know, if you have a young family, then immediately you're going to be looking at places where there's good schooling. You know, whether it's good healthcare. For us, it was good terroir for wine. But, you know, that's certainly a focus. And we did our research. Do you remember the first property we went to? In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, at that stage, I don't think, as you say, we ourselves didn't have a clear idea of what it is we were out there looking for. But we made several trips to Italy, first starting in Chianti, eventually moving down to Umbria and Tuscany, looking at various different houses with vineyards, houses with agriturismos, just the whole combination. And then sort of narrowing it down and realizing more what it is we were looking for and what would make us happy.
So I hate to get into the subject of wine because it's something I love and I tend to get distracted, but it will be good. But from what I'm hearing from the two of you, because my next question was going to be why Tuscany, but you said something, Niall, about the terroir. So I am guessing that you are also wine lovers, not just lovers of Italy, and you were purposely looking for a place that had a vineyard. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, Lisa, I describe ourselves when people say, how much experience do you have? And I say, I've been in the wine business for 30 years, but I was downstream as a consumer. And now we're trying to move upstream and become producers. But yeah, our plan was we wanted an agriturismo. We wanted enough vines around us so that it wasn't just a hobby. But it wasn't a mammoth undertaking either, something we felt we could manage.
Right.
And I mean, initially, for example, our plan was to live in the property that we rented out as an agriturismo. And ultimately, we didn't do that. I, for one, am really pleased we didn't. We would have ended up living over the shop. And a lot of those properties are a bit more secluded. So as I say, we learned as we went along. But for us, the anchors, if you like, or the draw certainly was we want to be in a good wine producing area.
Right. Okay. So let's just backtrack a little bit before we get back into the idea of agriturismo and winery, because I think there's probably a lot of logistical challenges that go just with those two things alone. Is that in the timeline 2017, when you took your sabbatical in Italy, you went traveling, you went home, back to your careers and did all the solid planning that you did. But then COVID happened and Italy being one of the strictest countries in the world for lockdown, what happened to your plan in the process?
So it was actually a double whammy for us because we planned to move here as we did in July 2020. But what we hadn't planned to do was move here and upon arrival find out that we actually don't have a home to go to, because the property that we thought we were buying, the deal fell through at the last minute. And of course, as you can imagine, for us, that was shocking news. But then also the realization struck that now it's not about the vineyard anymore. Now it's just about finding a home to live. So we had temporary accommodation booked for the first month that we were here, and that was great. And then we started finding a house that we could call home. And we were very blessed because we have a fantastic real estate agent here, and she was amazing. So where we're sitting right now is our home. And we moved in very quickly in the first couple of months. We were lucky because it was a keen seller. We were the keen buyers. So it was a match made in heaven.
I think the word is homeless.
Yeah. And after 6 months of looking for a business and an agriturismo and a vineyard, we decided on Poggio Golo. We had seen Poggio Golo before, and it was my first choice initially. It wasn't.
Niall is saying something different.
Yeah. It was my first choice, and so eventually we went back there, and it became our business. So, but going to the point of the pandemic, we obviously were very conscious that Italy was hit very hard at the beginning of the pandemic. And so we were very conscious also of the fact that there are rules to be followed, and everything that we did in the first how many ever months, while the restrictions were quite strict, was done within the confines of those restrictions. But everyone was sort of aligned, like even buying this house, the sellers were aligned, we were aligned, the agents were aligned. So everything just happened very, very smoothly. And I'm a firm believer when that happens, then, things are meant to happen. So it sort of all went off without a hitch. And then we were sort of at ease to look around, really make a good decision on what it is that we were going to run as a business. And Poggio Golo happened about 6 months after that. So we bought Poggio Golo in mid 2021,
25th of June,
which gave us enough time to get used to the place, get used to Montepulciano, make connections, make friends, all of that, settle in. Goes to the point as well when people talk about what makes Italy great. And of course, there's the stunning scenery, there's the food, there's the wine, everything. But for us, it's the people. It really is the people that we live with, the community that we're now part of. Those first few months were challenging for the reasons that we've just explained. And had we not had sort of the shoulders that we had at the time around us, kind of supporting us, it would have been that much harder. And we're here 3 years later. Knock on wood, we've managed to not only start our business in Italy, but grow it as well. And we can talk a little bit more about that if you wish. But,
yes,
so those kind of things don't happen with just two people doing things. That happens with people around you, really helping you achieve what you want to achieve.
Our enologist on our winery will come to talk about it, but he was at pains to tell us at the start, you need a squadra. If you want to get something done, you need a team. Everything's a team effort. And he absolutely right. I mean, he's been our guardian angel at times. And it really helps to have one of those, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get into some of the business aspect of it, because I know, well, first of all, one thing is compared to some other countries, there's no such thing as a golden visa or anything like that in Italy. So how are you able to stay in the country? And is that separate from owning a business?
So I'm lucky. I'm Irish and therefore citizen of the European Union. So
right.
I don't have a visa. I've got residency rights, and my wife is lucky because she's married to me.
Yes,
I have residency rights because I'm married to an EU citizen. So for us, that was the easiest part of the of the settling in process, let's say.
Of course. Yeah. And that all changed obviously for the UK recently. So that was good. Oh, there is good timing. So what about then the business aspect? You are able to establish a business in Italy as part of the EU then?
Yeah, so very few restrictions on foreigners coming in and buying businesses. In fact, Italy wants you to come in. It wants to attract investment. So that wasn't an issue at all. Once we had the residency sorted out, then there's the bureaucracy that you have to resolve. Getting your driver's licenses, getting your carta di identità, getting your health card, carta sanitaria, getting your internet connected, picking the right company for your internet. All of the mundane things of life that you have to build a life from scratch in a foreign language.
Right.
And that was certainly challenging. But again, we found so many good people. Our banker is just fabulous. He's helped us in so many ways beyond banking. Talk to this guy, our commercialista, our accountant, who is a font of advice and information. He found us the lady who looks after our dogs.
Wow. That's great. It sounds like you've built a great community there. So did you buy a property that was, because some other people I've interviewed, they've bought properties and restored them. Was yours, Poggio Golo, already the way that you wanted it, more or less?
More or less. Because of the COVID period, we're very glad we didn't buy a project because of COVID, all the logistics were upset. You couldn't find people. And of course, the difficulty of meeting with people. Had we bought a project, we would have been waiting another 2 years just to get the people, get the laborers, to get the craftsmen, and to get the materials. But no, Poggio Golo was in pretty good shape. But we did do a very, very quick, I mean, it was a very frantic month, that first month, redecorating it inside, getting the gardener to become the painter, then finding someone else to be the gardener.
Yeah, I mean, we did a light touch, let's say, for the first season, and then more work for the second season. And this year, again, we're doing more improvements to the property. So, but we didn't need to do, thankfully, a major restoration project or anything like that on Poggio Golo. So we were lucky in that sense. It's in a beautiful position, and it's one of those properties where you forget what else is happening with the house once you're in the location, because you're just surrounded by stunning scenery, in a sort of 360-degree fashion, vineyards all around you, olive groves all around you, and views of Montepulciano, Pienza, and Chianciano. So, what's inside the building, although of course it's very, very important, and people thankfully love what we've done with the place, I think pales in comparison to what they see outside. So we're lucky in that respect.
So a Poggio is a hill.
Okay.
And so we sit on top of this hill. So we have a panoramic view. And Paari, you've said it many times, you notice, we rent the villa only to groups. So we take rooms, you take the whole thing. And during the summer, during the peak period, you take the whole thing for a week. And the groups arrive in various states. Sometimes they're exhausted. Sometimes they've been in Europe for 2 or 3 weeks already, or they've driven down from the Netherlands or from Germany. And they check in on a Saturday. And you've said so many times, when we go and see them, let's say on a Sunday or a Monday,
they decompress.
Relaxed. Yeah. They're telling us their favorite spots to have their morning coffee.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
So got that sort of effect, I suppose. It's a very calm, peaceful place, and people feel that very quickly after they check in.
So let's talk about it then. And I'm just delighted by Niall's smile when you talk about the property. Your eyes light up. So of course, I invite you to go see their website, because just watch the video. It's stunning, the property. And of course, I can only imagine. And obviously you've had guests and they have given you great reviews and everything like this. So tell us, I guess from beginning to end, what can we expect by a visit? You said for a large group, ideally, right? You have 2 parts of the property?
So we have 2 villas. The main villa, the bigger of the 2, can accommodate 12 people. It's got 6 rooms, and it's got 6 bathrooms. 2 of the rooms are en suite, and then the other 4 share 2 bathrooms on the top level, and then we've got 2 other bathrooms on the ground floor. And it's 400 square meters, or actually a little more. So that's about, 4,500 square feet, the main villa. And right next to it is the pool, and on the other side of the pool is the smaller villa, which can accommodate another 6 people. So it's got 3 rooms, and it's got 2.5 bathrooms, so 2 full bathrooms and a guest bathroom.
And we only rent that smaller villa. That's an extension to the main villa. So we wouldn't rent it to a different group, because you're renting the villa, you want your own private pool, and you want your own privacy, if you like. You want to be able to exhale, and let the kids run around, let the parents sit in the shade, whatever it is, sit on the terrace. We have a beautiful panoramic terrace, where if we can't find the guests, that's usually where they've ended up. And it's got loads of space, and lots of little nooks. So if you want to be with the group, there's loads of space. If you want to sit on your own, find a private space, there's that too. And it's for families or for groups of friends. and we've had both. And we've had multi-generational, obviously, people traveling.
And I think that's anyone wanting to go to the Tuscan countryside, that's very common. It's just like, let's get a whole bunch of people together and do the wineries, the cooking and everything like this. So tell us your location then, and the main, access to Poggio Golo.
So we're about 15 minutes away from Montepulciano, and we're about 7 minutes away from a town called Acquaviva. But to reach Poggio Golo, what people usually do is they fly into Rome or they fly into Florence. Mm-hmm. And by car, we're 2.5 hours from Rome. We're about an hour and a half away from Florence. They could also take a train, which is very, very easy, actually, from Rome Airport or Florence as well, from Santa Maria Novella train station in Florence. And the closest train station to us is a station called Chiusi Chianciano. And it takes about 25 minutes to 30 minutes from the train station to get to Poggio Golo. But we highly recommend renting a car when people visit Tuscany, because, for us, that's the best way of exploring the area.
Right.
Having the flexibility of going to little towns around Montepulciano as well, whether that's Pienza or Chianciano, or even as far as Montalcino, if you want to taste other great wines, etc. So a car is definitely the best way, and the roads are beautiful. They're very, very easy to navigate as well. There's great signage. I know people sometimes have apprehensions about renting a car in Italy, but honestly, in the countryside, it's just such a pleasure to drive. But yeah, as I say, trains are also fairly accessible from the property, aren't they? So there are lots of options.
Yeah, and I mean the roads tend to be smaller and narrower, so you do have to slow down a little bit. We're also quite close to the A1, the Autostrada, so it's a good location. It's a good place to base yourself. Do a day trip to Florence, to Firenze. Do a day trip to Siena. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also Pienza. There's so many beautiful little areas. Each one will have a fabulous restaurant, and each one will have a great local wine. And the cypress trees and that image of roads twisting and turning up and down.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so rent a car and take it easy. And we joke and say, it doesn't matter what side of the road you drive on, because the Italians go down the middle anyway.
That's a funny one.
And Paari accuses me of acclimatizing way too well.
You're an Italian. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we got to survive, right?
Yes, exactly. But also, you want to be able to drive around and do some wine tastings. Obviously, drinking responsibly.
Right.
Just to get the best out of the countryside, you need to be mobile.
Yeah.
So you call yourself an agriturismo. So that's very important. Now, is that the designation you gave it, or I feel that that's a classification that you must fall under with certain criteria?
Yeah. So an agriturismo is basically a working farm. So it's when you say I'm going to holiday in an agriturismo, you're going to holiday in a farm where there are rooms and or villas in our case, and you have to be producing something yourself on that farm. Right. And so in our case, it's grapes and olives. But that's essentially what it is. It gives tourists a chance, and this is way back when, I'm not sure exactly, but it started a long time ago, and I suspect it was because it wasn't easy for people in the countryside to find accommodation, and so eventually it became a thing for tourists to stay at farms themselves. But it really gives, what's different about an agriturismo vis-a-vis a B&B is you get that experience of what it means to actually be in the countryside and be on a working farm. And so you actually see the farmers and people tending to the vineyards and the olive trees, etc., while you're there. And it's one of the things we say to our guests when they come actually, irrespective of when they come. I was going to say when they come in the summer, but actually it's all year round. That this is a working farm, so you will see people around the property. So don't be surprised if you do. And we also actually, to that point again, give the opportunity to people who come in September when we have the harvest to participate in the harvest if they like. And to help us with that amazing experience as well. And when we did it last year, I mean, it was such fun for everyone, and such nice words, very kind words from our guests about how they were just. It was some once in a lifetime kind of thing for people. So we're very happy to be able.
August the harvest month? Is it late August?
September. And it depends. The earliest it would be is mid-September. So last year it was a hot summer. The grapes were ready. So it's normally towards the end of September. But I remember one group last year, one of the women in the group turning to me saying, I can actually cut your grapes. You're going to allow me to cut the grapes? And I said, well, don't worry, I'll be watching you quite closely. But yes, this is the harvest. Cut the grapes, put them in the bucket, hand them to the farmer.
So when you bought the property, the staff and the farm was already functioning. So your role is management then?
No, we had to find that the previous owners would just sell the grapes. They didn't make their own money. And they had contractors. We've built our squadra. We've built our team. There's a local family who work a lot on the farm. We now have 4 employees,
full-time employees. Yeah.
And during the harvest, we bring in extra people. And anyone's mother, our cantiniere who runs our cantina, press ganged his mother into helping with the harvest last year, because when it's time, and you have to get into the vine. You got to harvest those grapes. Because it could rain, and if it rains, everything has to stop. Wait till it dries and start again. It's a frantic period. Everybody's exhausted, and everybody's in a great mood.
I can just imagine. And then you're coming out with a whole table full of food to celebrate, right? Or get through the day.
Yeah. At the end of the harvest, we usually have a massive long table lunch for the entire team, and I mean it's a great day.
So where's the wine being made then?
So we use the facilities of another winery close by, because we have to build our own cantina. Cantina is a winery, for want of a better word. So we use their equipment and their facilities, and we use our people to make the wine. And next year, towards the end of this year, next year, we will be building our own cantina. So we're currently going through the process.
So you will be head winemaker.
Yep. We're going through the process of getting all our permissions, clearing the ground for the space. And I find whenever I'm online, I am looking at cantinas and designs and getting ideas. And that's kind of my fixation at the moment.
We're also in the process of converting the winery or the vineyard into bio, which essentially means we can't use chemicals, or we can't use the nasty sort of chemicals, I should say. Yeah. And that's very important to us as well, because we want to obviously respect the land and respect what it's giving us, and to do it in the most natural way possible. So it's a long project for us to convert into bio status, but it's one that we think absolutely has to be done.
Bio is what it calls organic.
Yeah. Yes, I had to laugh because I was just at the slow wine presentation in Miami. And I was speaking to, I think they're a distributor here. I don't know if they were the exporter or the importer. But anyway, because with Florida, there's all these different channels to get wine in here. It's a little complicated. But we're talking about organic biodynamic wines. And in order to be in the slow wine guide, you have to follow those things. But she said, the bio stand. She says, it's not what you think it is. Yes, okay, I know what it is.
But
So that's amazing and good for you, because
that's what
I think
we see ourselves as being, we're not the owners of Poggio Golo. We are the custodians of Poggio Golo. Yeah. So, for example, the winery will be as carbon neutral as possible. We're using natural materials, natural insulation materials. We will be putting solar panels up to try to effectively take us off grid, but that'll be next year, not this year, because we have to build it first. Mm-hmm. Every treatment, it's incredibly precise and incredibly regulated, and I mean that in a positive way.
Right. It has to be that way.
Oh yeah, so we do use treatments for our grapes. You have to, but the treatments we use sit on the skin of the grape. They don't penetrate the skin of the grape. We have to, when we buy the treatments, we can only buy treatments from a certain list, and we can only buy a certain quantity. And then we have to account for the elements we haven't used after. So it's good to know that the Italian system takes it that seriously. So if you see bio or bio on an Italian wine bottle, you know it's been made in the right way, and you know that it's been checked and checked at various stages. Without notice, we will get inspections. Show us show us everything. Show us the vines. We're going to literally walk into the vines and test the grapes. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. That's amazing. And Niall, I'm very curious. I mean, I'm sure, Paari, you're very involved in the wine aspect too. You're both partners in this. But I'm curious because you were probably once like me, the wine consumer, and then, the wine learner. I've done basic certification, and then part of your learning is obviously, consuming as much as you can within reason. I mean, as a learning process, but you've gone to the...
Yes.
It is work. Nice work, though. So how did you get there to the next level? Because you're also in Italy. So when you're talking about vineyards or wineries, I mean, we're talking about a generational thing that's been passed on. Where are you in the spectrum? Are you still learning?
Oh, yeah. Every day, every week, and hopefully always will be.
Yeah, of course.
Which is part of the excitement / terror. But yes, we're constantly learning. And again, we both have done WeSet, Wine and Spirits Education Trust, level 2, and we'll go on to do level 3. We have people around us who are absolute experts at what they do. Whether it's our enologist, the enologist is the person who tends to the grapes, not physically, it's after their health, and advises on how we're going to blend our wines, how we comply with the rules for Vino Nobile, the Montepulciano, for example. And he is hugely experienced, an absolute and utter expert. He's got people in his studio who do the analysis for us. We're not qualified to do that. Our cantiniere, who's the person who looks after the cantina, that's what he does. And I get in his way.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of it's important to know what you don't know, and we're very conscious that look, we're qualified as lawyers, and obviously we're not going to go to any wine producing area and pretend like we know how to do this and we can take it from here type thing. So one of the first things that we did, even in the run up to buying Poggio Golo, we didn't even wait until we'd signed. It was the run up to buying the property. We made sure we had the professionals that we needed around us to advise us on what it is that we needed to do to really put life into the vineyard, because the grapes had been sold up to that point, but to regain not just control, but put life into the vineyard again and start producing the grapes in the way that we wanted to produce them, and then with the eventual aim of making a wine that we were happy with. So for those kind of things, obviously we needed experts around us, and that's exactly what we did. the team that we have, the 4 employees that we were talking about, that's the internal team. And there's a mix of skill sets between the 4 of them. And then we have what we, I guess, could call our external team, which is the enologist, the agronomist, our commercialista, who is part accountant, part tax advisor, part government regulation advisory person. So, you know, it's essential for a business, for any business, to have to have the right people involved. But coming to a new country in a foreign language and undertaking an activity that, quite frankly, at the time we knew very little about, it would have been very, I'm not sure what the word is, quite frankly, but arrogant, I think, if for us to think that we could do it all ourselves. It's not possible, and we're blessed to have all these people around us, quite frankly.
I think we were in the sweet spot of ignorance. We knew enough for what we wanted, but not enough to realize how much we didn't know. But I think humility and realizing, you know, and being respectful, listening to the people who know better than you.
Right.
So yeah, not coming in saying, okay, we're the owners now. Now it's going to be done our way. No, we're still learning what our way is, and it's a collective effort.
So is your goal then to make your own? Because obviously, Vino Nobile in the Montepulciano is, you know, up there, you know. So is your goal to make single vineyard, high quality wine like your own estate? Yep. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
That's all we do.
Yeah.
We are first from the Vendemmia, from the 2021 harvest. Our Rosso di Montepulciano is now available, only now. Later on this year, we'll have a Super Tuscan. Also, everything produced on our property, on our estate, from our grapes. And then next year, our Vino Nobile, which is currently sitting in beautiful French oak wooden barrels, which are enormous, sitting in
they're bigger than that, actually. I don't know what trying to do there, but they're bigger than that.
That's what I do when I hug them when you're not around.
Yeah.
You don't want to admit in public. So our Vino Nobile is aging and going through the aging process, and it's checked every week. In fact, more frequently than every week, and we'll be bottling that next year. So our first Vino Nobile will be available next year. That's going to be a big day.
Oh yeah, I want to hear about it. And like I said, I told you, once we get on wine, I'm going to get carried away, but I'm actually going to stop. Just one last question though. So how many hectares or acres do you have? I guess you have vineyards for grapes, and then you also have the olives, right?
Yeah, so we have the total property is 12 hectares, and we have almost 6 hectares of vines. So the vineyard is almost 6 hectares. And the olive trees,
250 olive trees. Yeah. So you count the number of olive trees and you count the hectares for the wine. So 250 olive trees and 6 hectares of wine. And we're also relatively densely planted. So each hectare should give us about 5,000 bottles of a very good quality wine. So we're not mass producing, we're not going for quantity, we're going for quality.
Right.
The oldest part of our vineyard is 70 years old. And you can see that's on a corner. She produces less, but the quality is the best. And the rest are 20, 22, 23 years old. So now hitting their straps in terms of production and quality. Right.
So we're going to go back into the idea of, because I think more people that watch us are going to be more interested in places to stay than wine. Although I strongly encourage, like I always say, for me, Italian wine is your geography lesson, and it's your connection to food. So if you learn all 20 wine regions, then you go from there and develop your interest in what food is specifically for those regions. And before you know it, you've covered the whole country. But anyway. So let's go back into that's fascinating, by the way. So we'll talk more about that off camera in a bit. But let's go back to places to stay. So you have been, 2 years functioning as an agriturismo place to stay, right?
Yeah, so this will be our third season. And our third season actually starts on Monday. So, it's in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So where are most of your guests come from? Because your site is also in Italian. So anybody, I'm very fortunate. I'm just learning Italian. I presume you both are learning Italian too. Probably you have more advantage over me. Are you learning, or do you feel you're proficient?
I feel quite proficient.
Good.
Italian, yeah. I started learning a little before we moved here, and we both kept up lessons while we've been here. So I think between us, there's no sort of situation that we can't handle individually, which is great. And I think that is, if the first bit of advice to anyone thinking of moving to Italy always is, you have to start learning ASAP.
Right.
Don't wait until you get here, because that's too late.
and don't be too downtrodden by the conjuntivo.
Yeah, well, that's one sort of, but yeah, it's a beautiful language. It's a hard language, and it takes a lot of practice, but you have to put in the work.
And it's hugely important. We're in Italy, when you speak to an Italian in Italian, even if my language teacher would grimace at the grammatical mistakes I'm making, the Italian person I'm speaking to is they're very patient and very pleased that you're making an effort to learn their beautiful language. And it changes the interactions we have with people. Though on one occasion I did turn to a couple in a restaurant. I meant to say to them, abbiamo due cani, we have 2 dogs. Instead, I said to them, siamo due cani.
Oh, no. We are.
They were a bit confused for a while.
But you must have noticed it right away, what you'd said, right?
Yeah.
I just heard Paari laughing behind me. I realized.
Yeah,
but I think that's any of us that are learning Italian or any other language for that matter. I think the hardest part is just jumping in there, and it sounds like you both just did, right?
Yeah, there are once you live here, and of course, once you're running a business here, you're basically thrown in the deep end. You have no choice. So you have to do it, and I guess that takes away some of the shyness that you feel if you're just traveling here as a holidaymaker, or if you're coming here to study for a short while or something. You may feel a bit reticent practicing in front of the Italians, but once you're in the deep end, you just go with it, and you become so much better as a result, because obviously the more you practice speaking, the better you speak.
And we've had many conversations. We're speaking Italian to an Italian who's speaking to us in English, because they're trying to practice their English and we're trying to practice ours.
We actually have that system now with some of our friends and some of our associates here, which is, if they want to practice their English, they'll speak to us in English and we'll just respond in Italian, and it works really well.
I love that. That's great. That's good. So let's go back to place to stay. So I was saying that your site is in Italian. So I have learned that Italians, especially in August, Ferragosto, they're looking to get out of the city and escape to the countryside. Is that the case? Have you had Italian guests?
So the majority of our guests actually come from the States.
Yeah.
And so we get a lot of big groups of family or friends or both. And it's, I would say, about 80% of our guests come from the States. The remaining 20% come from Northern Europe, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Austria, exactly. And so the Italians are not a big demographic in our guest pool. And I think the reason for that is because during the summer, we have a minimum stay of 7 nights. And during sort of off-peak, the minimum stay is 4 nights. So that's more manageable. But I think if you're living in Italy and you're looking for a quick getaway, you'd probably go somewhere where you could stay for 2-3 nights, and that would that wouldn't be.
And then move on. Yeah, no, that's okay. That I was just curious because the site is in Italian, but why not? That's
and also in English.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know that. Yeah.
So, but yes, again, we're in Italy, so it should be in Italian. But no, we find it's people plan ahead. So yeah, we wouldn't get people saying, "Are you free tomorrow?" It's no. Are you free in 6 months or 8 months or 12 months?
Yeah.
We've had inquiries for 2024.
Right.
Already. So and it's people putting together big groups for the trip of a lifetime or a special celebration, whether it's a significant birthday or an anniversary. And they want to come and enjoy it in an amazing surrounding. And we also organize, so we only rent the villa, but we do organize private chefs for our guests, pizza nights. We'll give advice on, what restaurant do you want? So, for example, if you have young kids, do you want to go to a Michelin restaurant? Maybe you want something a little less grand. So, So, when guests arrive, in fact, before they arrive, we have an app for the property, which you were making me do a video the other day on how to work the washing machine. So our guests know how to work the washing machine. I can't work the washing machine at home, but I can work the one in Poggio Golo.
So we have an app to sort of give all the information that guests would possibly need during their stay on that app, so that they have it with them at all times and they don't feel that they're sort of, floundering for the right information when they need it. And if they can't get a hold of us for whatever reason, it's all there for them to access on their phones. And we're very proud of our little app because we put everything possible.
I got to download and have a look.
It's got some highly, highly sensitive information, like the best parking spots in Montepulciano. Lisa, I could tell you, but I'd have to shoot.
It's on the
app. That's so funny. So I just realized something. You are not actually living on the property.
No, we don't. No, because we rent the entire property out.
Right.
We live 10 minutes away. We're there in a flash.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a home or a flat, or just curious?
We have a home. And I tend to go on the white roads, on the back roads, which turned out to be quite useful. We had one group arriving last year, and without notice, the road was closed. They were resurfacing the road to Poggio Golo. So we met our guests and brought them to the property through a vineyard in the back way. And they were saying that they've never arrived at a property by being driven not on roads, but literally through the tracks in the vineyard.
Through a vineyard, yeah. But no, we have a home here. So we have our own sort of place. And yeah, the Poggio Golo is very much just for the guests. When you rent Poggio Golo, you have complete free reign of the place almost. And then, you've got the winery down below, you've got the vineyards around you. And so it's secluded, but you are also very connected to Montepulciano.
And we say to guests, this is your home for the week.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm thinking it's a great place for maybe a destination wedding too.
Yeah, we do get inquiries for weddings as well. We haven't had our first wedding yet, but what we do have this year is a lot of guests who are attending weddings, let's say 10, 15 minutes away from Poggio Golo, are staying with us. So I think it's only a matter of time before we have our first wedding as well.
Well, the property looks beautiful. And I believe there's a swimming pool on site as well. You said terrace.
Yeah.
And is it easy for people to get, I guess all the facility to cook, so they would have access to where to buy food close by?
Oh, absolutely. And again, everything's on the app, Lisa. So is
there a link to that app, or do we have to be in a guest? Because we can put all the links.
We can absolutely share a link. That's absolutely no problem. Yeah, you don't need to be.
But it's things like, these are the local supermarkets. Don't go to this one on a Saturday because everybody arrives on a Saturday and they go to this supermarket. Go to this one instead. But the property's got each property has its own kitchen. There's an outside barbecue. We have our own pizza oven, which is from 1834.
Yeah.
Wow.
Outdoor pizza oven. And again, guests love that because obviously, that experience of having your pizzas made in that oven and sitting outside and looking at those views. I mean, it's just magical during the summer.
Some people may just need to hire somebody to help out with the pizza part, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We recommend that.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful, and it's not as easy as it looks to cook a pizza in one.
Sure. Wow. So, I know this could be a whole conversation for another day, but if you were able to, because like I said, going back to a popular topic for our readers is buying a property in Italy. If you could say, and you've already kind of alluded to the fact also on your website that, navigating through the bureaucratic process and everything like this, but if you could say, like, let's say the top 5 tips that you would give somebody, and it doesn't have to be 5, it's as many as you want, when they want to buy a property, what would you say, based on your experience, are the most important things to consider?
Number one each. So
okay.
You start.
Get a good agent.
Yeah, absolutely.
I stole the best one.
and don't name your agent, but how did you go about finding an agent?
Remember, we spent 3 years looking. We looked at some in person at between 60 to 80 properties. We met a variety of agents, and we found one in the end who we just went with her. And in fact, we gave her parameters to find us properties.
Excellent. And it's important to note that in Italy, the agent represents both the buyer and the seller. So you weren't coming in with with an agent just working on your behalf.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. There's various aspects of the purchase process that take a bit of getting used to, but a good agent is a broker in the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No.
Good.
Definitely.
Yeah, good advice.
So we have 4 to go. Lisa has set us a challenge of 5.
Well, you could do 6, you could do 10, but I figured that'd be whatever you want.
I think sort of related to that is you have to also speak to a commercialista quite early on in the process. Because as I said before, the commercialista, who's the sort of advisor on all things numbers related, let's say, the accountant, the tax guy, the guy who'll tell you what the regulations really say. I think both of them need to kind of work in tandem in a sense, but also the commercialista needs to give you the advice that you need to figure it all out from a tax perspective and from just the financial perspective. I think that's really important early on in the process. So you have a good grasp of what you're really in for.
I would say find yourself a good lawyer and a good notary.
We're going through all the professional things.
I know. Yeah. Shout out to lawyers. Yeah.
And those are two separate
things. Yes. So the notary, and again, it works different in Italy than it does in other parts of the world, but the property transaction happens in the notary's office. He or she will read the documents to you. If you don't speak Italian, they will arrange for a translator, and that's all recorded. And the notary basically also checks the work of the lawyers and the agents to make sure, has the property been surveyed? Is the seismic survey up to date? Does it have all the licenses and permissions and approvals required? There's Tuscany in particular is known within Italy for being strict for its planning and strict for its property inspections. So all of those things to be checked. And you need a good notary who will again find a balance between buyer and seller. And if there are issues, and there can be issues with property transactions all over the world. Notary will help resolve them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a related point is, there's a tendency, or I suppose there's a temptation to go on the net and try and get information for yourself on the process, and then, on specific things. And I see, especially on, groups on social media, for example, people asking very specific questions about the purchase process, or about, this happened with this property, and what does this mean from a tax perspective, or whatever. It's great if people want to be helpful on these platforms, but actually the best avenue to get the real advice, or the advice that's really going to help you, is to go to a professional directly and, engage them to act for you and to give you that advice. Because it happens where, people are just taking down the wrong path as a result of just doing a search online,
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but you feel like it's all accessible online, but actually, no, if you get in touch with the right person here, only they will really be able to tell you, okay, this is what's happened just yesterday, and this is what you can take advantage of. So I would caution people not to go out there seeking specific advice on specific tax issues, for example, through social media groups. I see that happen a lot.
But also, sure. I mean, Italy's meeting culture, and yes, lots and lots of government services are moving online, which is great. But what you need is someone to interpret the rules and tell you this is how they're applied here. No. In Milan, it might be different. In Rome, it might be different. But in this comune, this is what you. That's a problem. That's not a problem. And yeah, you need somebody with the knowledge. So I have to think of one now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Are we at 5? Because that's a wealth of information. Thank you, by the way, for sharing that.
What would I say? Yeah, take your time. Take your time. Don't fall in love with the first property you see. Maybe that's the one, but see others to validate that it is the one. And again, as we said earlier, if you're coming here for the summer and that's all you want to do, okay, fine, come in the summer. But if you're moving here, you should come to Italy off season as well, and make sure the place you're staying, because the winters can be harsh.
Yeah.
It gets dark. Come and see your intended location in all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Right. That's excellent advice. I remember you saying that going in January. Yes, that's really important. Good for you.
No, and as a general sort of before and, after you make the move, just have patience, just completely sort of forget the kind of timelines and pace that you used to have in your previous life, and just recognize and accept that you are in a different place where things work differently, and they're different requirements, they're different laws, they're different regulations, things just work differently. And so I think once you accept that you are not, you're not where you used to be, and you're somewhere else, and think, it just, the whole thing becomes a lot easier and more pleasant.
Are you channeling Let It Go?
Well, actually, Niall, I read some of Paari's blog posts, which are good. I think what it says is, and if you have a chance to kind of go through all their website, is that I think what Paari's saying is you need to have a sense of humor about it, right?
Absolutely.
Lisa, we used to wake up in the morning and say, right, here's our list of 10 things that we're going to do today. And we would get 6 done. So being lawyers, that to us is a failure. What we realized is, okay, we had an ingenious solution to improve our success rate, is that we limited the number of things to get done to 5. We would not attempt to do more than 5. And it was part of the adjustment process. We didn't come from a city to this part of Tuscany to live the same life and to react to things in the same way. And I think for us, I'm not to say calming down or de-stressing, but recalibrating our expectations of ourselves was a process. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't happen overnight. No, it takes time. So that's, I think, the final bit of advice we would give.
And the only comment I would make, the last comment I would make on that is, funnily enough, it's easier to buy a car. Yeah. Sorry, it's easier to buy a house than it is to buy a car in Italy.
Yeah. And also get a driver's license too, right? In Italy, from what I hear.
Indeed.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a conversation for another day. I don't know if anybody's interested in buying a car. And it's also, if you're thinking about bringing your car in, I've heard stories about that too.
Exactly. A whole other level of complication.
Yes, yes.
Well, we won't get into that today. So we're heading obviously into the last part, which I've said this now for every single video. When I came up with the name Chat with an Expat, it was because it rhymed and it's cute. It has evolved. And most people now that we're interviewing don't like the word, but for the sake of this section of the magazine, what, and you can both answer separately, is your definition of an expat?
So it was interesting, Chat with an Expat. It's a great name. And the thing for us though, which I suppose maybe a little different from some of the other interviewees, is that we've both been expats for a very long period of time. I've essentially been an expat since I was 12, because I haven't lived in India since then, and you've been an expat since 89. So we're used to the term, and we're used to, I suppose, the feeling that comes with being an expat. For me, it's the way I look at it is that it's someone who's kind of left everything that they know and what they're familiar with, and they've gone out to seek a life of adventure and fun and new connections, and maybe to fulfill a dream. And I think living this life of an expat really broadens your horizons in a way that I'm not sure many other things do. Would you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, go out and experience the world. I alluded to this earlier on. We had visited Italy many, many times. The first time, and literally dozens of times, the first time that we felt that we kind of understood her more was when we came here to wind down for a sabbatical and stayed for a prolonged period. And living here is different to visiting. And the expat goes out to learn and to explore and to experience. I'll always be Irish, particularly when there's a rugby match on. I will always be Irish. But, I love living in Italy.
That's nice. And Paari?
It's been a great adventure already. The journey has been amazing. I think for us, while we are definitely stranieri, as we're called here, foreigners, or literally strange people, for us, what's been really, really important is to make connections with Italians. There's sometimes a tendency among expats to stay with expats and to
stay in an expat bubble, be
in their comfort zone, just speak English all day, every day. And we were very conscious that if we are making this choice, if we're making this life choice, we are going to not have expat friends, of course. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but also very mindfully go out and make connections with people who are from here, whether that's from Tuscany or whether that's Italy as a whole. And I'm very proud that we actually have done that, and we actually do have those connections and those relationships now, because otherwise I feel like you're missing out such a huge aspect of what it means to be an expat in Italy.
Right.
If you don't make that effort.
And I didn't mean to throw that back to you, because I did start with you. I thought it was interesting that Niall was saying, and maybe you can't really say this because you've lived in so many places, but Niall said, I'll always be Irish. And do you feel that you'll always be something else other than now a new Italian?
So Lisa, I counted actually, so kind of like in just thinking about it the other day, I've lived in 5 countries, and I truly believe I have a little bit of each of them in me, because you are the sum of experience at the end of the day. So, and I think I'm very much a sum of those 5 countries. So, of course, the core is very much Indian, but there are layers on top of that.
Right. So that might be my final question, which is always the same question. Might be a little harder for you than it would be for Niall, but I always ask. Yeah, bring it on. It's not about wine, okay? What do you miss most about your country of origin that you don't have in Italy necessarily?
Rain in August.
Of course.
For me, what I miss about Ireland are the people, family, friends, lifelong friends.
Right.
And a place is a place, but it's people that make it home.
Mm. And I usually ask, besides friends and family, I forgot that part. And it's usually a food item.
Yeah.
But would you say maybe rugby?
Yeah, rugby, Tato crisps.
Tato crisps, yeah.
Oh.
Catnip for Irish people.
Yeah, for me, it's the food. Right. For sure, it's the food for me. And yes,
your mum is teaching me recipes.
You mean the food diversity or your ethnic background?
So just Indian food generally, but I think because we spend so much time in Dubai, there are definitely things that we miss about Dubai as well, like the convenience of having everything on your phone. I mean, we're living in the countryside in Italy, and for basically everything we need to get into our cars, and we need to go where we need to go to get those things. Whereas, in cities, that's obviously not the case. You just do and it's at your door in 10 minutes and you're done. So that is something we definitely miss, the convenience. But other than that, it's different cuisines, Thai food, Chinese food. So yeah. I think not having everything on your phone, I mean, that was the first thing that initiated that change, is part of this lifestyle change. We think in our current lives, if it's outside of, in your career lives, that we don't have time to go to the market, the store, or different places to buy those certain food items because we can get it on our phone. I mean, I do that myself. Oh, I don't have time. I'll just order it. It'll be delivered. Yeah. But you've made time now, right, for all of those things. Yeah, that's true. That's true. We have made time, and that is, I mean, we spend a fair bit of time sort of doing those things as well.
I buy our vegetables.
Yeah.
And I don't go to a farmer's market, Lisa. I go to a market. It's just called.
Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? I know it's in Italy on your winery, but you're attorney, so you have plans. Where are you projecting you in your life, and you could say even careers, I suppose, because this is a job, see yourself?
So I think 10 years is actually a little an extended period for me. I would say right now our focus is to make a success of the winery and to build our team further, and eventually become essentially the owners / custodians of Poggio Golo, and step back and let our team drive the day-to-day running. So that's where I see us going in the next couple of years. Want to add to that, or
it doesn't have to be 10. It's just plans.
We'll be making super high quality wines, which reflect our terroir, which are unique to Montepulciano, to Tuscany. We'll be doing it in our state-of-the-art cantina. We will do it in as environmentally friendly and as if we can we'll get as close to zero carbon footprint as we can. That's what we'll be doing.
That's a big job.
And also, I will have an electric tractor.
Good. That's going to keep good for the environment. Fantastic. Wow, that's great. So, for anyone who wants to come stay and planning a long stay or your destination wedding, your family reunion, whatever you want to do, how do we find you?
So we're on poggiogolo.it. That's our website. And if people are more comfortable booking on other booking websites, then we're on those as well. I'm not sure if you want me to mention them now, but
sure, go ahead. It's okay.
So it's just Airbnb and booking.com. Those are the two that we're on. And yeah, we'd love to have you come and stay and experience Poggio Golo.
Are you on social media?
We are also on Instagram. Yeah. Okay. So look for Villa Poggio Golo. It should come up.
Yeah, we'll be sure to link that because one of our most dedicated audience is coming in from Instagram as opposed to Facebook and that. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's great to know. And of course, you know us. We're Live in Italy magazine, www.liveinitallymag.com. And of course, everywhere on social media, just choose your platform, Live in Italy Mag. We are there. I didn't say at the beginning, I'm getting used to this whole YouTube environment world, I should have said right at the beginning, please subscribe, like, and comment. All of those things help us grow. And that way more people will see this video and any of the other chats. If you don't want to watch the videos, you can go to our website and subscribe there. And also, there's plenty of other stories. We have about 8 or 9 very committed writers from all over the world. Just choose your subject. And hopefully we've covered it. And if we haven't covered it, just send me an email and we'll definitely look into it. So what a pleasure. I hope this fall to get into that area. And
great. Yeah, we look forward
to visit.
We'd love to chat, Lisa, and we'd look forward to seeing you in person.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I would love to do this again, in a couple of years when you've created that wine, and let's talk about more of your vineyard and look at photos. We'll have plenty of photos to show you as well. Please look them up, go visit. It's a dream to see their project. Nothing less, their property, nothing less than that. All right? So
thanks,
until
Lisa.
Next time, alla prossima. We'll see you again. Thank you.
Grazie mille.
Ciao.